Marcus closed his eyes for a moment, letting the tension from the past week dissolve in the soothing bubbles of his hot tub. The laughter of his friends filled the air, blending with the soft hum of the evening. The gentle flicker of the string lights reflected off the water's surface, casting a warm glow over his patio. The difference was night and day. No rowdy strangers. No muddy footprints. No Karen inviting herself or her guests onto his property. Just genuine people, enjoying each other's company with respect and gratitude. As the evening went on, neighbors stopped by to offer kind words. "Marcus, I'm so sorry you had to deal with that," said Mrs. Patel, a kind woman who lived 2 doors down. "It was wrong what she did. I'm glad you stood up for yourself. About time someone put Sandra in her place, Mr. Thompson added with a chuckle, holding up a glass in a toast. "You handled it with class, man." Marcus nodded, accepting their support, but his mind drifted back to that first night when he'd come home to find strangers in his sanctuary. He realized something important: this hadn't just been about the hot tub, or even Sandra. It was about respect. About boundaries. About claiming the peace he had worked for and not letting anyone, no matter how entitled, take it away. Sandra, meanwhile, kept to herself after the fallout. The Wa had found her, and word had spread about what she'd done. The woman who once strutted through the neighborhood as if she owned it now avoided eye contact, her confident smirk replaced by a tight-lipped grimace. Marcus wasn't spiteful. In fact, he hoped she'd learned something valuable from it all. But he also knew better than to let his guard down again. His cameras stayed in place. His locks stayed secure. And his sense of ownership over his home, his peace, and his happiness remained stronger than ever. Weeks passed, and the neighborhood began to change in small ways. People were friendlier, more mindful of each other's space. Neighbors who had once felt quietly bullied by Sandra's overreach began to assert their own boundaries too. It was as if Marcus's stand had given everyone permission to reclaim their slice of peace. One Saturday afternoon, as Marcus watered his garden, a delivery man arrived with a large package. He opened it to find a plaque he'd ordered, a small but meaningful addition to his backyard. He mounted it on the fence near the gate, where everyone could see. "Welcome, but only if invited. Respect lives here." That night, as Marcus settled into his hot tub, he gazed at the plaque with quiet satisfaction. The stars shimmered above, the breeze was cool, and his sanctuary was truly his again. No one could take that from him, not Sandra, not anyone. And as the soft sound of water bubbling around him filled the air, Marcus smiled, knowing that the lesson he'd taught wasn't just for Sandra. It was for anyone who thought they could cross the line, and for himself, a reminder that sometimes, standing up calmly but firmly was the most powerful thing a person could do. Peace, earned and protected, was the greatest reward of all. Marcus had always believed that strength wasn't just in the size of a man's muscles or the loudness of his voice, it was in his ability to stay calm when tested, to act with purpose rather than anger. And in the weeks following the night he caught Sandra trying his gate, that belief guided him more than ever. After sending the video evidence to the WA and receiving their firm response, Marcus could have sat back and left things at that. But he knew better. People like Sandra often waited until they thought no one was watching, until the heat died down, and then tried again. Marcus wasn't about to let his guard down. So he invested in reinforcing his perimeter. He installed motion-activated lights along the fence line, subtle but effective. He added smart locks to the side doors of his house, all controlled by his phone. He even subscribed to a neighborhood security app, where neighbors shared alerts and updates about anything suspicious. And more importantly, he kept communicating, not just with the WA, but with his neighbors. It started with casual conversations on the street. Mr. Thompson, walking his golden retriever, stopped to thank Marcus for setting an example. "You know, I was always afraid of making waves," he admitted. "But you showed us we don't have to tolerate people trampling all over us." Then there was the young couple 2 houses down, Lisa and Jamal, who had just moved in a few months earlier. They approached Marcus one evening with a bottle of wine as a gesture of thanks. "We were starting to regret buying here, after dealing with Sandra's unannounced visits and constant nagging," Lisa said. "But seeing how you handled things, we feel hopeful now." The more Marcus talked with his neighbors, the clearer it became that he hadn't just stood up for himself, he'd stood up for the entire community. People were inspired to reclaim their own peace. Small but significant changes rippled through the neighborhood. Fences were repaired, hedges trimmed, and "no trespassing" signs quietly appeared where once there had been none. The unspoken message was clear: we value respect, and we will protect it. As for Marcus, he found a new joy in tending to his home. Every weekend, he dedicated time to his garden, nurturing the flowers, herbs, and vegetables that thrived under his care. His backyard became a lush, green haven filled with the scent of jasmine and rosemary, the cheerful hum of bees, and the gentle trickle of his fountain. Duke, his loyal dog, followed him everywhere, tail wagging, always keeping one ear tuned to the sounds beyond the fence. But perhaps the most meaningful change came not from the security upgrades or the neighborhood unity, it came from within Marcus himself. He realized how much he'd let other people's actions dictate his peace before. How often he'd swallowed frustration, trying to keep the peace by staying silent, when in fact true peace required him to speak up. One cool autumn evening, as the sun dipped low and the sky turned shades of orange and pink, Marcus hosted a small gathering in his backyard. It wasn't fancy, just good food, a warm fire pit, and the kind of easy conversation that comes from people who respect one another. Jamal brought his guitar and strummed soft tunes. Lisa shared homemade brownies. Mr. Garcia told stories of his youth. Even the reserved couple from the corner house, who rarely joined community events, came by and stayed for hours. Sandra, of course, wasn't invited. She stayed inside her house, peering through her blinds, no longer the center of attention. No longer the self-appointed authority. Marcus didn't spare her a second thought. His focus was on the laughter that filled the night, the clink of glasses raised in simple toasts, the warmth of connection. That evening, as the last guests said their goodbyes and the stars blinked awake in the sky, Marcus sat back in his hot tub, Duke stretched out nearby, and let out a long, contented sigh. His sanctuary was intact. His boundaries were respected. And the lesson he'd taught, not with shouting, but with quiet strength and steady resolve, had left a mark that would last far longer than any angry confrontation ever could. He reflected on how far things had come. From the first moment he'd seen strangers in his hot tub, feeling the violation of his space, to this night of genuine community and peace, it had been a journey. A reminder that, sometimes, it wasn't enough to build walls or put up fences. Sometimes, you had to be willing to defend them, not with aggression, but with unwavering conviction. The next morning, Marcus woke to the soft light of dawn filtering through his curtains. Duke nudged his hand, eager for their usual morning walk. As they strolled through the neighborhood, Marcus noticed the subtle but powerful signs of change, tidy yards, friendly waves, and most of all, a sense of calm that hadn't existed before. When he passed Sandra's house, she was in her yard, watering her flowers, avoiding his gaze. For the first time, Marcus felt no trace of resentment. Only peace. She had learned her lesson. And so had he. Because peace wasn't something you waited for others to give you, it was something you claimed, protected, and nurtured. And Marcus knew, as he looked down at Duke and gave his ear a scratch, that he would never again let anyone take that peace from him.